My name is Sharon, and I am 29 years old. After weeks in the hospital fighting a rare condition, I was released a day early. I wanted to surprise my husband Tyler, who was only 26. But the surprise was mine when I walked into our bedroom and found him tangled in our sheets with his coworker, Alicia. Strangely, I felt a calm wash over me. I simply smiled and walked away without a word. Before I continue with my story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you want to find out what happened next in this journey of betrayal and unexpected strength. Tyler and I met 4 years ago at a pharmaceutical conference in Boston. I was a pharmaceutical sales representative for Meridian Healthcare, having worked my way up through dedication and consistent performance. My colleagues often joked that I could sell ice to polar bears, but the truth was, I genuinely believed in helping doctors find the right medications for their patients. The conference was bustling with industry professionals when I literally bumped into Tyler while reaching for a coffee. He was an up-and-coming marketing executive for a competing company, with a charming smile and confidence that immediately drew me in. Tyler had this way about him that made everyone feel like the most important person in the room when he spoke to them. He was ambitious, smart, and surprisingly funny for someone who looked so polished and corporate. "I should thank the coffee gods for this collision," he said after helping me clean up the small spill. We exchanged business cards, and by that evening, he had already texted asking me to dinner. Our romance was a whirlwind. We dated for exactly 1 year before Tyler proposed during a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. He had planned everything perfectly, getting down on one knee as the sun set over the water. I cried, said yes, and 6 months later, we were married in a beautiful but intimate ceremony with just close friends and family. We bought our dream home in a peaceful suburban neighborhood, a charming 4-bedroom house with a garden I lovingly tended every weekend. Tyler continued climbing the corporate ladder while I expanded my territory at work. We talked about having children in another year or two, once we had traveled to the destinations on our shared bucket list. Paris, Tokyo, and the Amalfi Coast were at the top. Life seemed perfect. We hosted dinner parties, joined the local tennis club, and spent holidays alternating between our families. I had never been happier, and Tyler seemed just as content with our life together. The first sign of trouble appeared about 6 months ago. I started experiencing extreme fatigue, joint pain, and mysterious rashes. At first, I dismissed it as stress from work or perhaps an allergic reaction to something new in our house. But when I began running fevers and losing weight rapidly, Tyler insisted I see a specialist. After weeks of tests and referrals, I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition that would require aggressive treatment. When the doctor explained the diagnosis, Tyler held my hand tightly, promising we would get through this together. I remember feeling so grateful to have him by my side, believing his support would make this difficult journey bearable. Initially, Tyler was attentive and supportive. He drove me to appointments, researched my condition extensively, and even joined online support groups for partners of chronically ill patients. He made me special meals when I could barely eat and held me through nights when pain kept me awake. But as weeks turned into months, I noticed subtle changes. Tyler started working later, claiming big projects needed his attention. Our conversations became briefer, less intimate. When we did talk, it was mostly about my treatment plans or medication side effects, rarely about his day or our future together. The financial strain began to show too. Even with good insurance, the out-of-pocket costs for specialists and experimental treatments added up quickly. I had to reduce my hours at work, which meant my commission-based income took a significant hit. Tyler never directly complained, but I caught him frowning over bills more frequently, sighing heavily when another medical expense appeared. I tried to maintain normalcy in our relationship, suggesting date nights at home when I felt well enough. Sometimes Tyler would engage, but more often he would claim exhaustion from work, or make excuses to go out with colleagues to decompress. I understood his need for space, for moments of normality, away from our increasingly medical household. At least, that is what I told myself. 3 weeks ago, my condition worsened dramatically. My doctor recommended immediate hospitalization for intensive treatment and monitoring. Tyler seemed almost relieved when he dropped me off at the hospital, promising to visit daily. The first few days, he kept that promise, bringing my favorite books and fresh pajamas. By the second week, his visits became sporadic. He always had plausible excuses: a crisis at work, a deadline for an important campaign, his parents needing help with something urgent. I tried not to feel abandoned as I lay in the hospital bed, watching other patients receive daily visitors who stayed for hours, bringing homemade food and fresh flowers. "Marketing is just crazy right now, Sharon," he would say during his brief appearances. "The Johnson campaign is falling apart, and the VP is breathing down my neck." I nodded understandingly, ignoring the way he checked his phone constantly during our short visits, the way he seemed relieved when visiting hours ended. I told myself that when I got home, things would improve. Once we were back to our routine, minus the hospital setting, Tyler would remember why we fell in love. He would see me as his wife again, not just as a patient. I clung to this hope through lonely hospital nights, planning small ways to reconnect once I was discharged. Little did I know that Tyler had found his own way of coping with our changed reality, a way that would shatter the foundation of trust our marriage was built upon. The morning I was released from the hospital started like any other. I had my vitals checked, blood drawn, and waited patiently for my doctor to make his rounds. When Dr. Bennett finally appeared, clipboard in hand, I expected the usual update and timeline for discharge the following day. "Sharon, I have good news," he said with a smile. "Your latest test results show significant improvement. Your inflammation markers are down, and your kidney function has stabilized. I think we can release you today, instead of tomorrow." I sat up straighter, a surge of excitement coursing through me. "Really? I can go home today?" "Absolutely. We will need to adjust your medication schedule, and you will still need to come in for outpatient treatments twice a week, but there is no medical reason to keep you here another night." A nurse named Bethany helped me gather my belongings while reviewing my discharge instructions. As she went through the medication list, I had a sudden thought. "I should call Tyler and let him know I am coming home early," I said, reaching for my phone. Bethany smiled. "Or you could surprise him. My husband loves when I come home early unexpectedly." The idea appealed to me. Tyler had seemed so burdened lately, so detached from our life together. Maybe a surprise homecoming would break through the emotional wall that had formed between us. I imagined the relief on his face, perhaps even tears of joy. We could order from our favorite Italian restaurant, open a bottle of wine, and start rebuilding what my illness had eroded. "You know what? I think I will surprise him," I decided, putting my phone away. I called an Uber instead of asking Tyler to pick me up. The driver was chatty, asking about my hospital stay, and offering congratulations on my recovery. I gave vague responses, my mind racing ahead to the moment I would walk through our front door. When the car pulled into our driveway, I noticed an unfamiliar blue sedan parked behind Tyler's black BMW. A visitor, perhaps? Maybe his mother had stopped by, though she drove a white SUV. Maybe a colleague dropping off work documents. I paid the driver and slowly made my way to the front door, still weak from my hospital stay. Using my key, I entered as quietly as possible, planning to call out once I was inside. But as I closed the door behind me, I heard it. Laughter. A woman's laughter, followed by Tyler's distinctive chuckle. My heart rate quickened, but I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Tyler might be working from home with a colleague. Perhaps they were celebrating a successful project. There could be numerous innocent explanations. I set my bag down in the entryway and moved through the living room toward the stairs. Everything looked normal, familiar. Our wedding photo still held pride of place on the mantel. My collection of vintage perfume bottles still lined the bookshelf. Nothing seemed out of place. Until I heard the unmistakable sounds coming from upstairs. Our bedroom. My legs carried me up the stairs automatically, as if some part of me needed visual confirmation of what my heart already knew. The bedroom door was partially open, and through the gap, I saw them. Tyler and Alicia from his marketing team, in our bed, the bed where I had spent sleepless nights in pain, where Tyler had once held me and promised forever. Alicia, it made perfect sense now. The tall, confident redhead, who always seemed to touch Tyler's arm when she laughed at company functions. The woman who had given me a stiff, insincere hug at our last Christmas party, asking about my health with practiced concern in her voice but coldness in her eyes. Time seemed to stop as I stood frozen in the doorway. I noticed bizarre details with preternatural clarity. The framed photo of our wedding day on the nightstand, turned face down. My pillow, missing from the bed, tossed on the floor in the corner. Tyler's wedding ring sitting in the dish on his dresser, the one I had given him as an anniversary gift. What surprised me most was my own reaction. There was no scream building in my throat, no impulse to storm into the room and create a scene. Instead, a strange calm washed over me, as if I were watching a movie about someone else's life. In that moment of clarity, I saw the truth of my marriage in perfect focus. The pieces all fit together now. The late nights, the distracted conversations, the emotional distance. I stood there for perhaps 10 seconds, though it felt much longer. Neither of them noticed me. They were too engrossed in each other, too confident in their privacy. Without making a sound, I backed away from the door and descended the stairs, my hospital discharge papers still clutched in my hand. Outside, the spring air felt cool against my face. I walked down our tree-lined street without any clear destination, my mind oddly blank. I should be crying, I thought. I should be feeling something. The numbness was almost more frightening than pain would have been. I found myself at the neighborhood park, where Tyler and I used to picnic on Sunday afternoons. Sitting on a bench overlooking the small lake, I finally checked my phone. 3 unread messages from Tyler. Hope treatment is going well today. Let me know if you need anything for tomorrow. Cannot wait to have you home. Miss you. A laugh escaped me, hollow and unfamiliar to my own ears. He had sent these messages while with her, or perhaps immediately after, crafting a fiction of the devoted husband, eager for his wife's return. How long had he been living this double life? Was it a recent development, born from the stress of my illness? Or had there always been secrets, even in what I thought were our happiest moments? As I sat there, a strategic silence settled over me. I would not respond to his messages. Let him believe I was still safely tucked away in my hospital room, unaware of his betrayal. Let him have one more night of believing he had successfully compartmentalized his life. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and with it, decisions I never thought I would have to make. I checked into the Parkview Hotel that evening, using my credit card that Tyler rarely monitored. The receptionist gave me a sympathetic look when I explained I needed a room despite having no luggage. Just for tonight, I said, though I had no idea if that was true. The room was bland but clean, with generic watercolor prints on the walls and a bed that felt enormous for just one person. I sat on the edge of it, finally allowing the emotions to surface. They came in waves. First anger, hot and consuming, making my hands shake as I imagined confronting Tyler and Alicia. Then, crushing sadness that bent me double, tears soaking into the stiff hotel comforter as I mourned the death of what I thought we had. By morning, a strange clarity had emerged from the emotional storm. I remembered my grandmother's words after my grandfather left her for his secretary decades ago. Never make permanent decisions from temporary emotions. The wisdom of that advice resonated now. I needed to be strategic, not reactive. I ordered room service breakfast and began researching divorce laws in our state on my tablet. I learned about community property, grounds for divorce, and how infidelity might impact settlements. I took detailed notes, the pharmaceutical sales professional in me approaching this as I would any complex new product information. Next, I called my best friend Rachel, careful to use the hotel phone rather than my cell in case Tyler had installed any tracking apps. "Sharon, where are you? Tyler called me last night looking for you," Rachel said immediately. I need your help. But first I need you to promise not to do anything without talking to me first, I replied. After explaining what I had discovered, Rachel unleashed a string of expletives about Tyler that would have made a sailor blush. I will kill him. I will actually murder him, she fumed. Let me go over there right now and tell him exactly what kind of worthless human being Island. No, I said firmly. That is exactly what we are not going to do. I need to be smart about this, Rachel. I need somewhere to stay for a while, and I need your discretion. Rachel, a corporate attorney herself, quickly shifted from rage to tactical thinking. You can stay with me as long as you need, and you should call Leslie Montgomery. She handled my cousin's divorce last year. She is a shark in the courtroom but actually cares about her clients. I made an appointment with Leslie for that afternoon, grateful that Rachel was willing to drive me there. My next task was understanding our financial entanglements. Using my laptop, I logged into our shared cloud storage, where we kept financial documents. What I found stunned me. For the past 4 months, Tyler had been systematically moving small amounts from our joint savings account to a personal account I knew nothing about. Nothing large enough to trigger an alert, but cumulatively it added up to nearly $15,000. He had also applied for a new credit card in his name only, the statements showing hotel charges and expensive restaurant meals on nights he had claimed to be working late. Most damning of all, I found emails between Tyler and a realtor about potentially listing our house, with Tyler stating he would be relocating soon due to personal circumstances and would need to liquidate assets quickly. The timestamp showed this exchange had occurred just 2 weeks after my hospitalization. He had been planning his exit methodically and carefully while I fought for my health. The pieces of evidence formed a mosaic of betrayal far more calculated than a mere physical indiscretion. I downloaded everything, sending copies to my personal email and to Rachel as backup. Then, still using the hotel business center computer, I checked Tyler's email, which he had unwisely set to remember his password on all devices. There they were, dozens of messages between Tyler and Alicia dating back nearly 5 months, starting shortly after my diagnosis. Sweet nothings, explicit photos, plans for their future together. Alicia complaining about being the other woman, and Tyler assuring her it was only temporary. Once Sharon's health stabilizes, I will ask for the divorce, he had written 3 weeks ago. She is too fragile right now. The doctors say any extreme stress could cause a serious flare-up. His concern was not for my well-being, but for his public image. He did not want to be the villain who abandoned his sick wife. He wanted to appear noble, patient, the long-suffering husband who tried everything before reluctantly ending the marriage. Meanwhile, my phone had been buzzing incessantly. Tyler's panic was escalating with each unanswered call and text. The hospital says you were discharged. Where are you? Sharon, I am worried. Please call me. I went to the hospital, but they said you left yesterday. Are you okay? I have called everyone we know. Please let me know you are safe. His final message revealed his fabricated story. I was at the hospital all afternoon looking for you. No one seems to know where you went after discharge. I am filing a missing persons report if I do not hear from you in 1 hour. The audacity was almost impressive. He had constructed an alternate reality where he was the concerned husband frantically searching for his missing wife, rather than a man who had spent the previous afternoon in bed with his mistress. I finally replied with a single text. I am safe. Do not contact me again. Then I turned off my phone, ready to meet with the divorce attorney, and begin dismantling the life I had built with a man who had proven himself unworthy of my trust, my love, and even my anger. For 3 days, I stayed with Rachel, carefully planning my next moves with Leslie Montgomery's expert guidance. We documented everything, from the financial deceptions to the evidence of infidelity. Leslie advised me not to confront Tyler until all our legal ducks were in a row. The element of surprise is your greatest asset right now, she explained in her elegantly appointed office. The moment he realizes you know, and are taking action, he will start covering his tracks and potentially hiding assets. Tyler's messages had evolved from concern to irritation to outright anger as the days passed without substantive response from me. He had indeed filed a missing persons report, only to be told by police that since I had confirmed I was safe and was a competent adult, there was nothing they could do. "This is not like you, Sharon," his latest text read. "Whatever you think is happening, we need to talk about it like adults." On the fourth day, I waited until Tyler's online calendar showed he had a 2-hour marketing meeting off-site. Then I returned to our house with Rachel and her brother Marcus as witnesses and moral support. The house felt simultaneously familiar and foreign as I walked through the rooms that had once represented security and happiness. I went straight to our bedroom, now stripped of bedding, the mattress bare. Tyler had attempted to remove the evidence of his infidelity, but in doing so, had created an even more obvious sign that something was amiss. I packed methodically, taking only what was indisputably mine: clothes, personal items, family heirlooms from my parents, and my professional materials. Leslie had advised against taking anything that could be considered joint property until the divorce proceedings established clear ownership. In Tyler's home office, I noticed his desk drawer slightly ajar. Inside, I found a small stack of handwritten letters from Alicia, dating back even further than the emails I had discovered. 6 months of correspondence, beginning just after my first serious symptoms appeared but before my official diagnosis. "You deserve someone whole and healthy," one letter read. "Someone who can match your energy and ambition. I can be that woman for you." I photographed the letters but left them in place, additional evidence for our case. As I closed the drawer, I heard the front door open. Tyler was home, hours earlier than expected. "Sharon?" His voice carried up the stairs, a mixture of surprise and wariness. I descended the stairs calmly, Rachel and Marcus flanking me like bodyguards. Tyler stood in the entryway, his expression cycling rapidly through shock, relief, and then apprehension, as he registered my companions and the suitcase in my hand. "What is going on?" he asked, attempting to approach me before Marcus subtly stepped forward, creating a barrier. "I think you know exactly what is going on, Tyler," I replied, my voice steadier than I had expected. "Baby, whatever you think happened, it was a mistake, a one-time thing. I was stressed, worried about you, and made a terrible error in judgment," he said, his eyes pleading. "We can work through this. We have invested too much in our marriage to throw it away." I smiled faintly, almost pitying his transparent attempt. Without speaking, I pulled out my phone and played an audio file, the recording I had made while browsing through his desk drawer. His voice and Alicia's filled the room, discussing their plans for the weekend, referencing previous encounters, mapping out a future that had no place for me in it. Tyler's face drained of color. "How did you? When did you?" "I came home early, Tyler. 4 days ago. I saw everything." His shock gave way to defensive anger. "You were spying on me? Recording private conversations? That is not even legal, Sharon." "Neither is financial fraud," I countered. "Or have you forgotten about the $15,000 you have been siphoning from our joint accounts? Or the credit card statements showing hotel rooms on nights you were supposedly working late? Or the emails with the realtor about selling our house without my knowledge?" His expression hardened. "You are not thinking clearly, Sharon. The medications affect your judgment. The doctors warned about paranoid thinking as a side effect. This is exactly why I have been hesitant to discuss difficult topics with you. You twist everything into conspiracy theories." It was a masterful pivot, attempting to use my illness against me, to make me doubt my own perceptions. 6 months ago, it might have worked. Today, with Rachel and Marcus as witnesses, with documentation in hand, his gaslighting fell flat. "Tyler, I have copies of everything," I said quietly. "Bank statements, emails, text messages, your conversations with Alicia planning your future together, your research on whether my condition qualifies as a pre-existing condition that might exempt you from responsibility for my medical costs after divorce." His eyes darted nervously to Rachel and Marcus, then back to me. His voice dropped, becoming conciliatory. Sharon, please. Send your friends away, so we can talk privately. There are explanations for everything you found. We can still fix this. There is nothing to fix, I replied, picking up my suitcase. My attorney will be contacting you tomorrow with divorce papers. I suggest you find your own representation quickly. As I moved toward the door, Tyler's demeanor changed completely. The mask of contrition fell away, revealing cold calculation beneath. No one will believe you, he hissed, grabbing my arm. I have documented every mood swing, every paranoid comment, every medication side effect. I have videos of you forgetting conversations we had just hours before. Who do you think people will believe? The successful executive or the mentally unstable patient? I gently removed his hand from my arm. I think they will believe the evidence. And I think your parents will be particularly interested in the text messages where you call them interfering old fools who you cannot wait to cut out of your life once you are free of me. His face contorted with rage. You would not dare. I am already 2 steps ahead of you, Tyler, I said, walking out the door. I always was. His desperate pleas followed us to the car, switching tactics yet again, begging for another chance, promising therapy, claiming Alicia meant nothing. I did not look back as Rachel drove us away from the house that had once been the center of my world, but now represented nothing but lies and betrayal. The weeks following my confrontation with Tyler were a blur of legal meetings, medical appointments, and emotional processing. I settled into the guest room at Rachel's apartment, grateful for her unwavering support and frequent check-ins to ensure I was taking my medications on schedule. Leslie Montgomery filed our divorce papers, citing irreconcilable differences and infidelity, including the substantial evidence of Tyler's ongoing affair and financial deceptions. Tyler retained Bradford Wilson, a divorce attorney known for aggressive tactics and dragging out proceedings to wear down opponents. Meanwhile, Tyler launched a calculated campaign to control the narrative among our social circle. He contacted mutual friends with his version of events, portraying me as mentally unstable due to my medication, claiming he had only sought comfort elsewhere after months of dealing with my irrational behavior. Sharon has been having paranoid episodes, he told our friend Daniel, who immediately called to check on me. The doctors warned me this might happen, but I never thought she would fabricate an entire affair just to punish me for not being perfect during her illness. His strategy might have worked had I not anticipated it. Following Leslie's advice, I had already shared key pieces of evidence with 5 of our closest friends, not to damage Tyler's reputation, but to protect myself from his manipulations. I did not need to say anything further. The evidence spoke for itself. 2 weeks after moving out, I drove past our house on my way to a doctor's appointment and saw Alicia's blue sedan in the driveway. She had wasted no time moving in, apparently unconcerned about appearing sensitive to the situation. This confirmed what Rachel's neighbor, Judy, who worked in Tyler's building, had told us. Alicia had been openly referring to herself as Tyler's girlfriend around the office. The most surprising call came from Tyler's mother, Eleanor. She had always been kind to me, if somewhat reserved, maintaining the polite distance of a mother-in-law who respected boundaries. Sharon, Tyler told us you left him because of delusions caused by your medication, she began, her tone cautious but not accusatory. What else did he tell you, Eleanor? I asked quietly. That you imagined him having an affair, that you hired a ruthless attorney, that you are trying to take everything from him despite his support throughout your illness. I sighed deeply. Eleanor, I would never ask you to choose between your son and me, but I will tell you that I saw Tyler and Alicia together in our bed with my own eyes. I have evidence of their affair dating back 6 months. And Alicia is living in your son's house right now. You can verify that yourself if you wish. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly a minute. I am so sorry, Sharon, she finally said, her voice breaking. George and I raised him better than this. Tyler's parents came to visit me the following weekend, bringing a small photo album they had created of my 5 years as part of their family. It was their way of saying I would always matter to them, regardless of what happened with their son. Eleanor hugged me tightly before leaving, whispering, "He will regret losing you for the rest of his life." As the divorce proceedings continued, my health took another downturn. The stress of the situation triggered a flare of my autoimmune condition, sending me back to Dr. Bennett for adjusted medications and increased monitoring. I developed a rash across my chest and face, lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks, and experienced such extreme fatigue that some days I could barely leave Rachel's guest room. Tyler attempted to use this relapse to his advantage, filing a motion to be included in my medical decisions since we were still legally married. His attorney argued that my diminished capacity during flares meant I could not make sound judgments about my treatment, or, by extension, our divorce proceedings. Leslie fought back immediately, providing statements from Dr. Bennett, confirming that while my physical health was compromised, my cognitive abilities and decision-making capacity remained completely intact. The judge denied Tyler's motion and issued a stern warning about using my medical condition as a litigation tactic. The corporate world Tyler valued so highly began to unravel for him as well. Someone, possibly from the legal department, had notified Human Resources about his relationship with Alicia, who was technically his subordinate. The company had strict policies about disclosure of romantic relationships within reporting structures, policies Tyler had blatantly ignored. Both Tyler and Alicia were called into meetings with HR. While I was not privy to the specific outcomes, Rachel's neighbor Judy reported that Alicia had been transferred to a different department, significantly diminishing her role, while Tyler had received a formal reprimand that would impact his eligibility for promotion for at least a year. As Tyler's professional and personal life began showing cracks, his attempts to reconcile with me intensified. He sent flowers to Rachel's apartment. He emailed long apologies filled with promises of therapy and renewed commitment. He even showed up at one of my doctor's appointments, somehow having obtained my schedule, claiming he just wanted to be there for me like before. Dr. Bennett, aware of our situation, had security escort Tyler from the building and helped me file paperwork to keep my appointment schedule confidential going forward. Just when I thought the situation could not become more complicated, an unmarked package arrived at Rachel's apartment, addressed to me. Inside was a USB drive containing photos, emails, and text messages documenting affairs Tyler had conducted with 2 other women before Alicia, dating back to our 2nd year of marriage. The anonymous note accompanying the drive read simply, "You deserve to know the whole truth. He did the same to us." I forwarded the information to Leslie for our case file and, after careful consideration, sent copies to Tyler's parents. They deserved to know the son they had defended so vigorously was not the man they believed him to be. Eleanor's reply was a single sentence, "We love you, and we are handling this in our own way." I later learned they had canceled their plans to help Tyler with the down payment on a new condo he had been planning to buy after selling our house. His financial situation, already strained by legal fees and the cost of maintaining 2 households, took another hit. Through all of this, I focused on survival, on getting through each day with my health and sanity intact. I had lost my husband, my home, and my sense of security in the world. But sitting in Dr. Bennett's office 6 months after discovering Tyler's betrayal, I realized I had not lost myself. Broken, yes. Battered by circumstances beyond my control, certainly. But still, fundamentally Sharon, still fighting, still moving forward one difficult step at a time. 6 months into the divorce proceedings, I found myself in a place I never expected, grateful for the painful journey. Not for Tyler's betrayal or the loss of what I thought was a loving marriage, but for the unexpected growth that emerged from the ashes of that relationship. The legal battle continued, with Tyler's attorney employing delay tactics to extend the process, hoping to wear down my resolve or force me to accept less favorable terms due to mounting legal costs. Leslie remained undeterred, methodically countering each motion and building an increasingly strong case. Meanwhile, I focused intently on my health. Dr. Bennett had referred me to a specialist in Chicago who was pioneering a new treatment protocol for my condition. The initial results were promising, significantly reducing my inflammation markers and alleviating some of the more debilitating symptoms. "Your body is responding remarkably well," Dr. Winters told me during my third treatment. Often, emotional stress can exacerbate autoimmune conditions, but sometimes removing a significant stressor from your life, even through difficult circumstances, can allow your body to begin healing. The irony was not lost on me. In some bizarre way, Tyler's betrayal might have contributed to my physical improvement by removing the constant strain of maintaining a relationship with someone who had already emotionally abandoned me. During my hospital treatments, I befriended a nurse named Jasmine. She had a warmth about her that made even the most clinical procedures feel less intimidating, and she never rushed our conversations despite her busy schedule. "My sister has lupus," she explained one day while adjusting my IV, "so I understand a bit about what it is like living with an unpredictable condition. Have you ever connected with a support group?" I admitted that I had avoided support groups, fearful they would focus exclusively on illness rather than wellness. Jasmine smiled knowingly. "There is a group that meets at the community center on Thursdays. They talk about living well despite chronic conditions, not just managing symptoms. You might find it helpful." Reluctantly, I attended the next meeting. The group was small, just 8 people dealing with various chronic illnesses, led by a psychologist named Susan, who herself had multiple sclerosis. The focus was indeed on building a fulfilling life within the constraints of chronic illness, rather than allowing the illness to become one's entire identity. There I met Michael, a former marathon runner now navigating life with rheumatoid arthritis. He had an easy laugh and a perspective on adversity that resonated deeply with me. "My ex-wife left 6 months after my diagnosis," he shared during my second meeting, "said she had not signed up for a sick husband. It devastated me at the time, but looking back, I realize she did me a favor. Better to know someone's true character before investing more years in a relationship built on conditional love." Michael and I began meeting for coffee after group sessions, sharing our experiences, and gradually building a friendship based on mutual understanding and genuine respect. Unlike Tyler, Michael never made me feel that my illness was an inconvenience, or that I was somehow less valuable because of my health limitations. Professionally, I had to make adjustments as well. Returning to the demanding schedule of pharmaceutical sales was not compatible with my treatment needs and energy limitations. After careful consideration, I approached my company about transitioning to a training and development role, utilizing my product knowledge and sales experience to mentor new representatives. To my surprise, they not only accommodated my request, but created a partially remote position that allowed me to work from home 3 days a week. The reduction in travel and physical stress made a noticeable difference in my symptom management. While I was rebuilding my life, Tyler's continued to unravel. Through mutual friends, I learned that Alicia had left him for the CFO of a client company, a married man 20 years, her senior with considerably more wealth and influence than Tyler could offer. The financial pressure on Tyler intensified as the divorce proceedings dragged on. The attorney fees mounted, and the housing market took a downturn just as he was trying to sell our home. His parents, once his most reliable supporters, maintained a cool distance following the revelations about his multiple affairs. His increasingly desperate attempts to reconcile suggested his alternate plan had collapsed entirely. He sent emails claiming profound personal growth through therapy, though Leslie discovered he had attended exactly 2 sessions before discontinuing treatment. He approached mutual friends asking them to intervene on his behalf, painting himself as a changed man who deserved another chance. When these efforts failed, Tyler attempted a different approach, offering to settle the divorce on terms far more favorable to me than his previous proposals. Leslie advised caution. "This sudden generosity likely means he is in worse financial shape than we realized," she explained. "Let us continue with discovery before responding to his offer." She was right. Further investigation revealed Tyler had accumulated significant credit card debt, maintaining his lifestyle with Alicia, who had expensive tastes in restaurants, clothing, and weekend getaways. Additionally, He had received a poor performance review following the HR investigation, putting his year-end bonus in jeopardy. Throughout this period of transition and legal wrangling, I experienced an unexpected creative awakening. During my years in pharmaceutical sales, I had identified numerous inefficiencies in how medication information was presented to both medical professionals and patients. Now, with time to reflect during my recovery periods, I began developing a concept for more intuitive educational materials and training protocols. What began as simple sketches and notes evolved into a comprehensive presentation that I shared with my company's product development team. Their enthusiastic response led to a series of meetings with executives, who eventually offered to purchase my concept for implementation across their product lines. The acquisition included not just a substantial one-time payment, but also an ongoing consulting role and royalty arrangement that would provide financial stability regardless of my ability to maintain full-time employment, as my condition fluctuated. "You have turned personal adversity into professional innovation," my director told me when the contracts were finalized. "That is the kind of resilience we need more of in this industry." The irony was not lost on me that my greatest professional breakthrough came during the most challenging personal period of my life. Perhaps the perspective gained through suffering had opened creative channels previously blocked by complacency and routine. As winter turned to spring, I found myself experiencing genuine happiness for the first time since before my diagnosis. Not the fragile, conditional happiness I had known with Tyler, always shadowed by his secret resentments and betrayals, but something more authentic and resilient. Michael had become a steady presence in my life, our friendship gradually deepening into something neither of us was ready to label, but both valued immensely. We moved cautiously, respectful of each other's past wounds and ongoing challenges, building a connection based on honesty and mutual support rather than idealized projections. When the court date for finalizing our divorce approached, I felt not bitterness or regret, but a quiet resolution. The marriage had ended long before I found Tyler with Alicia, perhaps even before my diagnosis brought his true character to the surface. What remained was to complete the legal separation and fully embrace the new life I had been building, piece by unexpected piece. 1 year after discovering Tyler's infidelity, I stood outside the courthouse with Leslie Montgomery beside me, the divorce decree finally signed and official. The process had taken months longer than necessary due to Tyler's continued attempts to negotiate more favorable terms, but in the end, the evidence of his infidelity and financial deceptions had left him with little leverage. "Congratulations, Sharon," Leslie said, shaking my hand firmly. "You have handled this with remarkable grace and strength." The final settlement included a fair division of assets, with Tyler required to pay a portion of my ongoing medical expenses due to the timing of my diagnosis during our marriage. More importantly, I retained full control over my medical decisions and the intellectual property rights to my healthcare education concept, which had begun generating significant income. My health had stabilized with the new treatment protocol. While not cured, the condition had become manageable, with flares becoming less frequent and less severe. Dr. Winters had even presented my case at a medical conference as an example of successful intervention in previously treatment-resistant autoimmune disease. I had moved into a small but charming condominium closer to the medical center, a bright space with large windows and a small balcony where I cultivated an herb garden. The condo represented not downsizing but right-sizing, creating an environment that supported my well-being rather than depleting my energy. Old friendships had been tested through this journey, with some falling away and others growing stronger. Rachel remained my steadfast supporter, helping me navigate both legal challenges and health setbacks with equal dedication. Our bond had deepened through adversity, transforming from casual friendship into something closer to sisterhood. I had also reconnected with friends who had drifted away during my marriage, people Tyler had subtly discouraged me from maintaining relationships with. Jenna, my college roommate, had visited for a week, bringing her trademark humor and perspective. Amber, a former colleague who had moved to Seattle, made a point of calling regularly, refusing to let distance diminish our connection. Tyler made one final attempt at manipulation during our last court appearance, arriving with an elaborate display of remorse, complete with trembling voice and what appeared to be genuine tears. "I still love you, Sharon," he declared dramatically in front of the judge. "Everything I did, all the mistakes I made, came from my inability to cope with almost losing you to your illness. I was weak, terrified, and I made catastrophic errors in judgment. But my love for you never died." The performance might have been convincing had I not received screenshots the previous evening of Tyler's active profile on 3 dating sites, where he described himself as newly single, never married, no baggage. The judge, already familiar with the extensive evidence of Tyler's ongoing deceptions, was unmoved by the display. "Mr. Harrison," she said firmly, "this court is concerned with legal matters, not emotional appeals. The documentation shows a pattern of behavior inconsistent with your current statements. Let us proceed with finalizing the decree, as negotiated." Tyler's business venture, too, had proven successful beyond my initial expectations. What began as a concept for improved medical education materials had evolved into a comprehensive platform for patient engagement and treatment adherence. 3 pharmaceutical companies had now licensed the technology, and a healthcare tech incubator had approached me about expanding the application to other medical specialties. I decided to use a portion of the proceeds to establish a research fund, specifically focused on my rare condition, providing grants to scientists exploring new treatment approaches. At the first fundraising event, I found myself addressing a room of medical professionals and potential donors with a confidence I would not have recognized in myself a year earlier. "Sometimes our greatest challenges become our most powerful catalysts for change," I told the audience. This research initiative was born from my personal journey with chronic illness, but its potential impact extends far beyond one person's experience. Together, we can transform how autoimmune conditions are understood and treated. My friendship with Michael had continued to evolve, neither of us rushing to define what was developing between us. We had established a rhythm of shared activities adapted to our respective health limitations, finding joy in simple pleasures like cooking meals together, attending community concerts, or just talking for hours over tea on my balcony. "I never thought I would be grateful for rheumatoid arthritis," Michael confessed one evening as we watched the sunset. "But without it, I would never have met you. So, in a strange way, I have made peace with it." I understood completely. My condition and Tyler's betrayal had torn apart the life I thought I wanted, only to reveal a path to something more authentic and ultimately more fulfilling. 3 days after the divorce was finalized, Tyler called. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won out. "Sharon," he began, his voice carefully modulated to convey sincerity. "I just wanted to say that I truly am sorry for everything. I have been doing a lot of soul searching, and I realize now what I threw away. The women since you, they have all been attempts to fill the void you left. None of them compare to what we had." "What did we have, Tyler?" I asked quietly. "Because from where I stand now, it looks like we had a relationship built on conditional love, one that could not withstand the first real test." "That is not fair," he protested. "I stood by you for months during your illness, while simultaneously planning your exit and beginning affairs with multiple women," I pointed out. "That is not standing by someone, Tyler. That is waiting for a convenient moment to abandon them." His tone shifted, the practiced contrition giving way to familiar defensiveness. "I made mistakes, Sharon. Everyone does. But you chose to throw away 4 years of marriage instead of working through one difficult period." I laughed softly, not from amusement but from the clarity of hindsight. "Tyler, you were not the man I thought I married. Perhaps you never were. I am grateful now that I found out before wasting more years with someone who saw me as disposable the moment I became inconvenient." "I never saw you that way," he insisted. "Your actions showed otherwise," I replied. "But I want you to know something. I forgive you, not for your benefit but for mine. I refuse to carry the weight of bitterness forward into my new life. So thank you, in a way, for setting me free to find something more genuine than what we had. After hanging up, I felt a profound sense of closure. The anger that had fueled me through the darkest days of discovery and divorce had served its purpose, providing the energy needed to fight for what was rightfully mine. But carrying that anger forward would only diminish the life I was creating now. Looking back on the past year, I marvel at how completely my world has transformed. The betrayal that once seemed like the end of everything meaningful had instead become the catalyst for growth I would never have chosen, but now would not trade. My illness showed me who truly cared and who would stand by me when life became challenging. Tyler's betrayal freed me from a marriage that was more performance than partnership. The divorce forced me to rebuild from the foundation up, creating a life aligned with my authentic needs and values rather than someone else's expectations. The scars remain, both physical from my condition and emotional from the betrayal. But scars are evidence of healing, of the body and spirit's remarkable capacity to repair and regenerate after injury. They tell the story not just of wounding, but of survival and recovery. As I sit here in my new home, surrounded by elements chosen specifically to support my well-being, I feel a profound gratitude for this unexpected journey. The path has been arduous, painful beyond words at times, but it has led me to a place of genuine self-knowledge and hard-won peace. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led to positive change in your life? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes our most painful experiences become our greatest teachers. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and transformation. And remember, sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the beginning of something far more authentic and beautiful than you could have imagined. Thank you for listening, and may you find strength in your own unexpected journeys.